The desert stretched wide, burning under a sun that showed no mercy. Every shadow was a knife, every gust of wind carried the taste of old blood. A lone rider moved across that emptiness, a figure carved from dust and silence. His coat was torn, his hat bent low, and his eyes, though half hidden, burned with the weight of too many sins. He was a man with no country, no family, no forgiveness waiting at the end of his road. They called him Cain Mercer, the outlaw who survived every noose, but never outran his own ghosts. Behind him, the desert whispered of the men who wanted him buried beneath it. The law despised him, bounty hunters hunted him, and every saloon carried his name like a curse. Yet Cain did not gallop. He moved steady, as if running was beneath him. There was nowhere left to go, no haven untouched by his trail of fire. Each mile deeper into the west was only another nail in the coffin of his fate. The town of Perdition Creek lay ahead, a place where the living clung to survival and the dead were buried shallow. Cain knew someone waited there, maybe justice, maybe vengeance, maybe both. Still, he pressed on, because men like him never turned back. They only met their fate head-on, like walking into a gun barrel. The rider dismounted at the edge of the town, boots striking the dust like thunder muffled by silence. Faces peered through cracked shutters, mothers pulled their children inside, and the old drunk on the porch spat into the dirt. Everyone recognized him. No need for words, no need for wanted posters. His reputation arrived before he did, carried. On the smell of gunpowder and the sound of graves being dug too soon, Cain lit a cigarette with trembling fingers, though his face betrayed no fear. His breath was steady, his hands scarred. He had fought men, storms, even the hollow hunger of an empty desert, but what awaited in Perdition Creek was something else, something that couldn't be killed with a single bullet. He felt it in his bones, as if fate itself had cocked back the hammer and was ready to fire. The saloon doors creaked open ahead of him. Two shadows stood waiting in the dim light, tall, broad, and steady. Brothers, gunslingers. Their presence alone made the air a tighten, as if the entire town was holding its breath. Cain knew them by sight, though he had never spoken their names. They were the Barlow twins, killers molded from the same hatred, hunters who never left a job unfinished. Cain dropped his cigarette into the dust, crushing the ember beneath his heel. The moment stretched thin, like glass ready to shatter. 2 guns against 1 man, no escape, no mercy, just the certainty that when the shooting started, the desert would claim more blood before the sun went down. Cain stepped forward, boots heavy as tombstones. The town's silence pressed down, broken only by the creak of a weathered sign and the faint rattle of spurs from the Barlow twins. They didn't move, didn't speak. Their eyes were cold mirrors of one another, each reflecting Cain's face back at him like a ghost condemned to die twice. The outlaw remembered their father. Sheriff Elias Barlow, once a man of law, once a man Cain had betrayed. The sheriff had died with Cain's bullet in his chest, choking on dust and blood outside the same saloon where his sons now stood. The memory was a wound that never healed, a scar that burned each time Cain drew breath. The twins carried that scar too, carved into their blood, shaping their every step toward vengeance. Cain had no apology left in him. Words were empty where blood had already spoken. Still, the silence between the 3 men stretched unbearable, as though even the wind dared not cross it. The outlaw's heart thudded like hooves against earth, not from fear, but from the rhythm of inevitability. He had always known this day would come. He had killed their father, now the sons had come to kill him. The twins moved at the same time, like shadows joined by one soul. Their hands hovered near their holsters, fingers brushing the steel that had ended more men than the desert itself. Cain felt the pull of his own revolver, the leather worn soft by years of killing. His hand itched, but he waited. He had always Been patient, always let the other man twitch first. Behind him, whispers grew. The town gathered, drawn to the scent of blood about to spill. Every soul in Perdition Creek knew this was no ordinary standoff. This was an ending, the closing of a chapter written long before today. The Barlow twins didn't just want justice. They wanted Cain's last breath to echo the one their father lost. Cain's mouth twisted into a bitter smile. "Two guns," he said softly, his voice like gravel breaking silence. "But only one man to bury." His words carried across the dust, carried into the ears of the crowd, into the hearts of the twins. They didn't flinch, didn't blink. But Cain saw the storm in their eyes, the fire of sons who had waited too long to taste vengeance. And in that storm, Cain saw his reflection, not a hero, not a villain, just a man who had burned too many bridges, spilled too much blood, and now stood alone, facing the judgment of his own past. The guns spoke first, not with bullets, but with the sharp crack of leather as both twins drew in perfect unison. Their revolvers gleamed in the sun, black mouths hungry for Cain's life. The outlaw moved with them, swift as lightning splitting. A dead tree, his own Colt clearing the holster with a hiss of steel on leather. Time fractured. The crowd vanished. The world became dust, fire, and the sharp sting of death in the air. Bullets ripped through silence. One missed, one grazed Cain's shoulder, tearing flesh and spraying blood into the dirt. His shot answered, slamming into the wood behind the twins, close enough to kiss death across their faces. The duel was not one of men, but of shadows dancing between life and the grave. Cain moved sideways, boots grinding earth, his body already weakened, but his aim steady. The twins split apart, circling him like wolves around a wounded stag. Their movements mirrored, each one an echo of the other, each step tightening the noose around Cain's throat. Another shot cracked the air. Pain roared through Cain's ribs as a bullet tore into him. He staggered but did not fall. His revolver barked back, driving one twin behind a barrel, splinters exploding in the sunlight. Cain coughed, blood slicking his lips, but his eyes, those eyes still burned, still refused to close. The crowd gasped, children pressed into their mothers' skirts, men gripping their hats tight, women turning away but listening still. This was no ordinary gunfight. This was vengeance unfolding, the sins of fathers and sons carved into the flesh of one dying outlaw. Cain dropped to one knee, his vision blurring. Dust rose around him, choking, blinding, but he kept his Colt steady. He fired again, the recoil, jarring his bones. One twin cried out, a crimson stain spreading across his side. The other roared like a beast, unleashing fire from both barrels. Cain rolled, the bullets grazing past, his body heavy, but his spirit refusing surrender. In that moment, he felt the weight of every life he had taken, every choice that had led him to this sunlit grave. He knew the desert was ready to take him, but he wasn't ready to give himself yet, not while one of the twins still stood breathing. Cain crawled across the dirt, each movement carving agony deeper into his body. His blood painted the ground, feeding the dust that had long waited to drink him dry. The twin he had wounded pressed a hand against his side, his breath ragged, but his brother stood strong, his revolver leveled steady, eyes burning with hatred that had outlived years of silence. The outlaw coughed, his chest rattling like chains dragging across stone. Yet he raised his Colt again, defiance alive in the tremble of his hand. "You want me?" he rasped, voice torn raw. "Then take me. But remember, death don't end nothing. It just changes the weight of the burden." The uninjured twin sneered, his voice like steel scraping stone. "You took our father. You don't get to speak about burdens." His revolver cocked, the sound cold, final, like the toll of a bell calling a man to his grave. Cain's eyes never left him, steady as a man already past the fear of dying. The wounded twin staggered forward, blood dripping from his lips. His hand trembled, but his aim joined his brother's. 2 guns again, 1 outlaw, broken and bleeding, yet still standing against them. The air thickened, heavy with the inevitability of what was to come. Cain's hand shook, but his finger curled around the trigger once more. He thought of nothing now, not of redemption, not of forgiveness, only survival. Only the desert, eternal and hungry, watching this last dance of blood. The guns roared together. Cain's bullet tore through the chest of the wounded twin, ripping life away in a spray of crimson. At the same instant, fire exploded in Cain's side, throwing him back against the dirt. His breath left him in a rush, his Colt falling from his hand as his vision bled into black. The last Barlow stood trembling, watching his brother collapse, his body folding into dust and silence. Hatred burned hotter, brighter, but grief now, mingled with the fire. He had vengeance, he had blood, but in gaining it he had lost half his soul. Cain, broken and dying, lay staring up at the endless sky, his lips curling into a faint, bitter smile. The sun hung low, burning red as though it too bled for the lives spilled into the earth. Cain's body lay twisted in the dirt, each breath shallow, each blink slower than the last. The last Barlow stood above him, gun still smoking, hatred, still alive but hollow now, empty as the grave. Cain coughed blood, his voice barely more than a whisper carried by the desert wind. "You think it ends here?" he asked. "Killing me don't bring your father back. Don't bring your brother back. You'll carry their ghosts, same as I carried mine." His words were knives, not for vengeance, but for truth. The surviving twin shook, his revolver lowering inch by inch. He wanted to end Cain, to crush the last breath from him. But Cain was already dead in all but name. Killing him now would not be justice, it would be mercy. And mercy was a language the Barlow blood did not speak. Cain closed his eyes, the weight of the desert pressing heavy on his chest. He felt the cold creeping in, the silence of eternity waiting. For a moment he almost welcomed it, almost saw peace in the arms of the void. Yet the faintest smile lingered, not triumph, not regret, only the weary acceptance of a man who had walked too long with death at his side. The twin holstered his revolver. He turned, leaving Cain to the dust, to the silence, to the unrelenting sun. Perdition Creek watched, its people frozen, its streets carved with the memory of blood and echoes of gunfire. Cain Mercer, the outlaw with no escape, drew his last breath beneath that burning sky. The desert claimed him at last, his sins scattered into dust, his legend left behind to haunt the whispers of the West. And as the twin walked away, one truth lingered in the heat. Out here, no man truly escapes. The desert keeps its secrets, and the blood it drinks is never forgotten.